Can you tell me where?
Fala pessoal, eu sou Kelvin Araújo, estamos aqui em mais um vídeo do nosso canal. E como vocês puderam ver no título, mais um vídeo de entrevistas. Antes de eu falar de quem a gente vai entrevistar aqui hoje mais profundamente, eu peço para que vocês adotem o procedimento padrão de sempre. Deixem um like, ativem o sininho caso vocês ainda não o tenham ativado aí no celular de vocês e já sejam inscritos do canal. Se inscrevam no canal caso vocês não sejam inscritos ainda no canal, só assistam, acompanham os nossos conteúdos, mas ainda não se inscreveram, por favor. Nos sigam em nossas outras redes sociais, Facebook, Progland, Instagram, Prog_Land, Groover, né, plataforma de áudio que a gente recebe resenhas de vocês, em caso de você ser um artista ou de você conhecer alguém que é artista, é Prog_Land, e nas plataformas de áudio que tem nossos conteúdos aqui no formato exclusivo de áudio, Prog_Land, Progland ou Prog Talk, né, em formatos de Google Podcasts e áudios, e também no nosso site proglandmusica.wordpress.com. Tutorial feito, eu vou falar do que se trata, um pouco da entrevista de hoje. Essa é a entrevista do nosso canal internacional que vem no fechar das luzes do ano de 2024, né, mas que a gente está tendo muito prazer, muita felicidade em ter aqui no nosso canal, né, que é a entrevista que nós fizemos com Colin Bass, baixista do Camel desde 1979, uma das bandas mais lendárias do rock progressivo. No nosso papo, na nossa entrevista, a gente fala principalmente, claro, não só de toda a carreira dele com a banda, processo da banda em estúdio, muitas curiosidades de bastidores, momentos importantes de shows, de gravações e coisas do tipo, relação dele com Andrew Latimer, né? Vale lembrar que ele é o membro que está mais tempo na banda, desde o Andy, que é fundador do grupo, e é integrante do Camel desde 1971. E além dele falar de toda essa experiência dele na banda, essa entrevista teve um gancho muito especial, porque o Colin lançou o seu novo disco, seu disco mais recente, em parceria com Daniel Biro, músico sul-africano, multinstrumentista. Eles já tinham lançado um álbum antes, né, Stills, de 2020, e agora eles estão lançando o álbum More, de 2024, um disco... O disco de 2020 é mais orientado a ambient music, coisas do tipo, mas esse disco agora tem uma sonoridade bem mais progressiva, e inclusive o Andy Latimer participa em algumas das músicas, e é a primeira gravação oficial, a primeira aparição do Andy Latimer em um trabalho desde o cancelamento da turnê do Camel ano passado, de 50 anos, devido a problemas de saúde do próprio Andy Latimer. O Colin fala mais sobre isso na entrevista, sobre o processo de participação dele nesse novo álbum, e além do mais, a entrevista fala um pouco sobre a carreira do Colin como produtor, novos artistas com que ele está trabalhando, e também o seu trabalho pioneiro no gênero, no movimento da world music e de artistas experimentais de música fora do eixo Estados Unidos e Inglaterra, né? Embora ele também colabore com bandas alternativas desses outros países, mas trabalhos muito oriundos a outros países, poloneses, regiões polonesas, né? Africanas e coisas do tipo, que tem vários tipos de sons, vários tipos de movimentos musicais muito interessantes e muito ricos, e que de certa forma também são oriundos ao progressivo, como inclusive o Mustaphas, banda de world music, de rock experimental, que ele foi integrante entre 1984 e 1991. E é isso, né? Eu espero que vocês curtam a entrevista. A entrevista tá muito bacana. O Colin foi super receptivo. Foi muito bacana ter tido essa oportunidade de conversar com ele. Já vou adiantando que essa é a primeira de uma série de entrevistas que a gente está fazendo e vão ser publicadas agora no fim do ano, tanto aqui no nosso canal. Essa e mais uma vão ser publicadas aqui no nosso canal e outras vão ser publicadas no nosso site que eu fiz, que eu conversei com artistas ou por telefone ou por e-mail, né? Mas entrevistas foram feitas, claro, com... Eu acredito que todas essas entrevistas, até onde eu sei pesquisei, são exclusivas ao Brasil. Esses artistas nunca falaram ao Brasil antes, né? Então é um momento muito importante. Eu peço para que vocês fiquem ligados aqui no canal e fiquem ligados no nosso site proglandmusica.wordpress.com. Repetindo, proglandmusica.wordpress.com. É isso, fiquem com a entrevista, espero que vocês gostem.
Fala pessoal, estamos aqui hoje com mais uma entrevista internacional aqui no nosso canal com um dos meus músicos favoritos, um dos músicos que eu mais gostaria de conversar já há um tempo, Colin Bass here. First of all, I would like to say again, thank you for acceptance, your availability. It's so good to see you again, and I'm really grateful for that, and I'm really thankful for acceptance this interview.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And we have a lot of things to cover. I didn't want to only talk about Camel, and with Colin had a huge career, and of all kinds of working, producing, playing, and discovering bands. And we're going to talk about all these calling eras, calling styles of working. But I need to start this interview talking about your recent record that you released this year with Daniel Biro, amazing South Africa multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, More record, the sequel to Steels, originally released in 2021, I think.
21.
And, yeah. And I would like to know about this record because I heard the album before the interview, and I was thinking, my gosh, this is a lost Camel album, but it has a lot of authenticity of Daniel and you. It wasn't replication of the sound of the Camel in any way, but it has some flavor that talks, that relates to the band's music. And I would like to know, first of all, the process of creating it, why it took 4 years of gap between this one and the previous one, and what difference do you notice in the process of making this record? Because I heard this album and I thought that it was a two guys album, you and Daniel. I thought it has a lot of band sounding. It has a fuller sound. It had percussions. It's not synthesizer, layers of keyboards and the fretless and the bass playing. It has a really band sounding, a fuller sound. And
Okay.
I wanted to know what difference do you and him wanted to achieve in the process of creating this record, comparing to the previous one?
Okay. That's an interesting question because you make me think about it. I mean, for me, it's a natural process, all these things. But it took first of all, the reason it took 3 years or something is that we weren't working on it all the time. So it was sort of like, this is this is the little project that is sort of coming along, and then it's getting a bit bigger and it's getting a bit bigger. And when you start, it's just sort of, you know, we just started with some of Daniel's old songs that he'd written and they hadn't done anything with. And so he was sending me various ideas, and that's how we started. And when you start, you think, okay, what we're aiming towards will be a nice collection of songs, but we didn't have them all. Some of them then just appeared within the course of the project, and because I know ideas present themselves to you, you know, they come to you, and I think that's generally in music. I think that's a kind of given thing, that, you know, the music, it comes to you, it's out there somewhere, it's coming into you, and I think that what helps is that if you've got a kind of idea, a project idea, and the sound starts to take shape, then certain ideas come to you that fit into this project, and you know, and those are always the best ones, rather than you're sitting there going, I need to write something to fit in with this project. That never works. It's usually you have to become open to it, and then the ideas will come. And then and then it goes on like that. But I mean, the first album I did with Daniel, the Still album, it's 21 we did that, I think, because that was really the lockdown album, you know, when everybody's sort of like a bit more reflective, and so that's what we were doing. We just wanted to make an album of ambient songs, so like an ambient sort of album, but with singing, with songs. And this one was more deliberately, I think, if that's the right word, but it's just that the initial songs that we built it around were more like, I don't know what they are. What is it? Pop music for grown-ups, you know, adult pop music. So, in other words, something with kind of interest, some interesting lyrics. You've got some interesting chord sequences, and then you can just have fun, you know. I mean, I was really enjoying doing all the vocals, all the backing vocals. I mean, that's all the voices you hear is me, and you know, that's really what I love doing. That, you know, then it's you know, you can in your own studio, you can be your own Beach Boys, you know, and that's just a lot of fun to layer some harmonies and then sort of try different harmonies and find new inversions in the harmonies, and then while you're doing that, that is itself a process of discovery. You know, you get ideas. You have to get into an idea first. You can't think of everything at once. You have to get into the idea, and then, you know, the other ideas will come when you've got so far. It's like that thing. It's you know, you can't get there from here without going there.
Yeah.
And going there is sort of getting more into the project, getting more into the song. And then all of a sudden something else will come up that will just be the thing you would never have thought of at the beginning, but it comes. So yeah, it's worth, you know, it's when you start projects like that, I think it's always worth thinking, I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, but, you know, it will become apparent to me.
Yeah.
I hope, you know.
That's all the music's about in a certain way, because jamming is a very important figure, because you don't have, you have absolutely no clue about when, how this song is gonna be completed, how is gonna be the final version of this song. And you started to having those ideas and those riffs and those melodies, and all of a sudden you have a complete song. It's
Yeah.
interesting. You were talking about the process of creating, and I would like to ask about exactly about that, because I really like the lyrics of the records, the lyrical themes and stuff like that. And I would like to ask, the lyrical themes in constructing the tunes had come to you and Daniel in the same time that you were constructing the melodies, or the lyrics had come first? How was the process? It was a straight process throughout the whole record. All the songs were done in the same way, more or less, or it has differences?
No, I mean, each song, I think I can speak for Daniel when I say that each of his songs he wrote at a different period of time, and my ones were more written at the time, or within a year. But each song is different. I think each song is different, and usually the music comes first to me, and the lyrics are obviously much more difficult, because it's like, what do I want to say? What do I? This is. So usually for me, speaking personally, the lyrics come second with the idea. And so one often sort of, if you've got yourself your little chord or thing that you think, I'm going to hang this song upon this chord shape, or this little chord sequence, and then you start to just sing in nonsense lyrics, and you hope that you're going to get the idea of what it is that you want to say. I mean, it's funny, because one of the one that I like very much. I've just come back. I was in Germany and Holland over the weekend doing some solo gigs, and that was a lot of fun. And one that I really enjoyed playing all the time, and that went down very well, was the "Going Out of My Head" song, track 2. And that song in particular is a good example of me for a long time sort of having, I can't come up with anything now. I need another song for this record. I can't come up with anything, oh God, that's so boring, and so you're not inspiring yourself. Then, and that's the wrong way to approach it, really. I think, it's it's like I just said, basically the thing has got to come from outside, and you just can't predict that. And that song, I sort of went into the studio, I think it was on a Sunday morning, and I had my studio here next to the house, and so I went in there, and I was going to, I turned the computer on, and I was going to set some other things up, but before I sort of started deciding what I was going to do and set up the project, I sort of just sat down with the acoustic guitar and started playing, and then I got that strange chord. I still don't know what it is, but it's just very nice, and just started playing with that. And then this melody came straight away, and then the chorus came straight away, and the whole thing wrote itself in like 15 minutes. And then I kept sitting there, and so I quickly recorded it, just acoustically on my telephone, and then just sat there for another hour just writing the lyrics. And all the lyrics came at once, and it's actually, for me, it's a meaningful lyric because it's actually a story, and it's about me. It's about a certain period of my life, but I cannot tell you how that happened, and when it was done. Magic, yeah. and 3 hours later, I had a song, and I started laying down the tracks, and and I was sort of pulled along by this enthusiasm to get it done, and then send it off to Daniel. And and afterwards, have a break, have a coffee, and it's like, how did that happen? What was that? What have I done? This is great. I felt really good the rest of the day.
So good when you all of a sudden you have the complete song appeared in you, and the ideas come flowing in your mind with so easy. So it's almost like this is really witchcraft, and this is really magical, this extraterrestrial things.
Extraterrestrial. I think what it is. What I think it is, and that's just ways of describing it, of describing a mystery. But actually, what is it? It's actually, it shows you that all the songs have already been written. The music is out there in the universe, and it just shows you that at that time, at that moment, you were fortunate enough, or you were in the right kind of open, like a radio receiver. You had your receiver on, your antenna was up, and you were receiving this. If only you could just dial that in. If only you could do that all the time, it'd be great. But then some people can, I mean, so people who are much more artists, who are much more prolific than I am, that's the secret, I think, is that you're receiving things all the time, and you develop your method of actually just writing it down, storing it. But for me, it's more unpredictable to me. I don't know what it is. Perhaps I need to be, meditate more, or I don't know. I'm just happy that it happens occasionally.
That's good, because imagine when you have to all the time to fight like a hell for ending a song, and there's no need to be that all the time. That's good when this not happens all the time. And in your case, it's so good that happens occasionally. You have this moment of pure magic going on. And another magic, but I have to say that was the special feature that we had on this record, which was the guest of Andrew Latimer. And how did you get involved on it? Because Andy and the Camel had canceled the 2023 tour, 50th anniversary, and we're gonna talk more about that in this later part of the interview. Really worried about his health and his stamina, how he is. And I would like to ask you, he's doing fine, he's okay, and how it was the process of...
he's getting better. He's had 2 operations on his spine, and one just a few months back, and and I'm in contact with him all the time, and he's recovering, but he's able to get to his studio, and which is up in the first floor of his house, and he's been playing, and he keeps playing, And that's how he got involved, because I just sent him a track and said, hey, you know, this is and then he just sent it back to me with a guitar on it.
Oh.
And I said, oh yeah, that's great, you know. And he said, well, I can do it differently if you like. I can do, you know. And so I said, I'll do a few versions. He was kind of tentative about it. He was shy about it. He's because he doesn't want to interfere. And I'm saying, please, this is fantastic if you play on it. And of course, you know, he sent on the 5 songs that he plays on, he sent a few different run-throughs, you know, different ideas, and we chose bits of what, and that's what he said. Look, I'll just play through it, and you know, you choose what you want. And you know, he's his own biggest critic, of course. But you know, I mean, you know, as Daniel said, you know, this is so great, you know, because it's so tasteful. It's such a tasteful player. Everything, you know, his touch and his sound. Well, we know about Andy. You know, that's why I've been happy to play with him for 40 years. Because he's a great player, and it's not many people have that melodic touch, you know. And yeah, so as well as being yeah, such a nice guy.
Extraordinary. And one of the tracks that I most liked, his participation, was Ghost of a Flea. And I was hearing these tracks, another tracks, and Hunting Game, and I Wish. I love this track. And so that's, you had said the accurate word, which was tasteful, and has a lot of tasteful harmonies, tasteful guitar parts, tasteful solos. And you were talking about the perfectionist nature of Andy Latimer. I didn't know that. I always felt he was a more straightforward, the term player, more the guy who generally plays the guitar part that comes in his mind, and he said, it's all that I've got, it's all that I wanted to play. I didn't know that he has that perfectionist nature.
Perfectionist nature, I would say he has. Yeah, he's, you know, yeah.
Because
I think it's because he cares, you know. He cares about every note.
because he's so amazing as a guitar player, to say the least. Because he sounded so much effortlessly, you know, and it's a talent is so pure that I really have a huge love for his guitar playing and his process of creating guitar sounds and stuff like that. I would like to ask exactly about some of the tracks, and how was the process of creating them, and I would like to ask about exactly Ghost of a Flea. Do you remember the process of recording it or
Yes,
creating?
so Daniel just sent, you know, that's Daniel's song, and he just sent me his basic parts, and then let me see. Yeah, well, then I will put the bass on it, and at the same time, sort of, and they're his lyrics, so he had the lyrics, and at the same time, I'm sort of practicing the lyrics, getting used to singing it, trying to think how I can get my way into the song and express it, what it's about, and the imagery, because it's there's a lot of it's sort of great. It's like a little fairy tale. It's like a little story, you know, and it's like a Victorian novel, I think, to me. You know, it's I see an old dusty novel with various characters coming out of this book, and so yeah, and I always try to think I get myself into the character, and then to have fun putting in more backing vocals, and you know, I'm always imagining myself when I'm doing the vocals and doing the backing vocals. I like to imagine myself as as I'm the lead singer in front, but I've got these sort of 3 or 4 guys behind me, and they're sort of like in a circle right behind me, and they're sort of going over my shoulder. They're going ooh, ooh, and I'm going you know, and so
that's really
I like
the Beach Boys.
try to visualize it. Yeah, the Beach Boys or the Mills Brothers. You know, we can go back further than the Beach Boys. You know, or the great vocal groups. You know, the Temptations. You know, all those the Four Tops. Yeah, that's when I was at school, we were listening to a lot of that. You know, but
You were one really interesting thing that you were talking by now in the interview was your really care about the musical arrangements and all these things in an album. And I would like to use this as a hook to our next phase to this interview, that I would like to straight back to your previous years in your career, because you produced you worked as a musician, and you produced a lot of other acts, and I would like to ask about the differences of musician and producing. uh, you have a vast career in both areas, and I would like to ask, what is more complicated, what is requires more attention for you, playing as a musician for a project or producing, because there's a different levels of responsibility, and I would like to know about what you try to do in each role when you collaborate with a band or artist. What is the difference that you notice and you note in playing with somebody and overviewing playing for other people when you're producing other people or producing somebody?
Okay, that's a good question.
You get the point?
It's a good question, because you know, if you're playing for somebody as a musician, or if you're playing in an ensemble, in a project or something like that, well, then you've got to be up to scratch, and you've got to be practicing, and you're involved with actually making the music. But I really enjoy working with other artists as a so-called producer, because then all you have to do is you have to concentrate on the artist. You know, I'm not. It's not like I've got to learn all the material. I've got to listen to all the material and try to get the feeling for it. I don't have to learn all the parts, which is great. But I look at the role of the producer as, in my case, as one of an enabler. You are enabling or helping the artist to focus on the the things, the order of events, the method, the timings of what we're going to do, and in order to help them reach the vision, their vision, not my vision, their vision. You know, it's like that's what they want to get to. So let's see how we can get through this, and what's the budget, how much time have we got, you know, it's how many other musicians are involved, how many, what is the project, what's the size of it, what's the ultimate, what's the aim, what's the vision, you know. And then sort of go through it and just be somebody who's, you know, a companion walking through this forest, creative forest, to and talking about it on the way, and listening, basically a lot of listening, so that you listen, and because sometimes the most useful thing you can do sometimes is just to say, you know, they say, I don't know about that, maybe I could do that better, and you say, well, yeah, maybe you could, or not. You either just say, well, okay, well then, let's do it again. Hey, but listen, you know, that was really good, and I really enjoyed that. And maybe this little thing you're worrying about is not so important, because, you know, an artist is really sensitive to the smallest thing that they might consider a mistake, but that most people wouldn't know. So it's just a question of listening and helping them to bring in the album, finish this album, you know. I really enjoy that process.
And talking about enjoying, do you what was your most enjoyable experience, or the most enjoyable album that you produced?
That's difficult to say, because, you know, I mean, perhaps some of the other artists would say, you know, if I don't mention them, you know, let's just say that each one is different. You know, like all artists have got their own little vision, their own little world, and, you know, you've got to try and go in there with them. And so, you know, just recently, well, I mean, my most recent productions with Maija Kauhanen from Finland. She's such a joy to work with, and such a talented person. And then I worked with Jonas Videnius, another Finnish artist who is kind of like Finland's best flamenco guitar player, and that was a totally different concept and way of working, because, you know, I was more just sort of making sure that we got everything done within the time constraints, because basically he knew what he wanted. And so it's the dynamic is always different every time. And at the moment, right at this moment, I'm currently mixing a project that I've been doing through the summer. Not all the time, but I've been working every now and then with two, which I'm really, really excited about, because it's a really great album, with two young ladies from the local North Wales music scene here. They're both well known on the North Wales music scene, on the Welsh music scene, in their own right, but they wanted to make an album together, and it's all sung in Welsh. And because, well, around here where I live, the first language of a lot of people is Welsh. You know, I live in a very Welsh kind of area in Wales. So Yeah, most people are bilingual, of course, you know, but yeah, but I've been working with them on this. It's a kind of concept album of using old Welsh words for various like trees, and it's about nature and they write sort of songs from this, and it's really beautiful, and their voices are fantastic, and they play guitars, and one of them plays piano, and yeah, Eve Goodman and Sarah Zaborski, who is Welsh, but with Polish antecedents. And yeah, so that should be available in the spring. I'm currently mixing it, and that's, you know, that's my latest production, and that is, you know, at the moment it's my favorite.
Well, yeah, no, it's a great question. It's valuable, absolutely. And I didn't know the name of the singer.
The one is called Eve Goodman, and she has a very good presence on YouTube. She has some very nice videos up on YouTube. She has a good channel. Yeah, Eve, Eve Goodman, and yeah, she's, you know, they're very talented.
I would like to ask, my next question is related to that, because one of the things that I most like it in your career is that you work it as a producer for acts in Europe and outside Europe and North America territory, and you're very related to work in traditional music from different areas, different countries of all world. I don't like the term. Many people use the term for the artists that you worked on with and collaborated. Label this artist as world music. I hate this label because it's so generic. I think that all the music that is done on planet Earth is world music. But
yes, of course, you know, this is amongst yeah, it is, well, and it needs a little explanation, because, you know, this is something that obviously this is a question, an argument, or whatever, that has been going on for as long as the term has been current. But basically, the term itself only came about in the 80s, when there was a meeting of UK independent record companies that were a lot of whom are my friends, who were specialized in putting out, whether it's music from Zimbabwe, or it's music from West Africa, or whether it's music from who else was involved? You know, a lot of labels putting out stuff from Brazil, even, you know, but you know, and the big problem they were trying to solve is, how do we get our records into the record shops? That's all they were trying to do, because if you go into if you went into a record shop previous to that, you know, you would find, you know, all the American artists, all the UK artists, and not much more. And you know, so the idea was just born out of a desire to make record stores aware that there's a whole world out there, and you know, that there is actually an audience for this. So, but of course, record stores are not suddenly, especially the big record stores, they're not suddenly going to become knowledgeable about you know, all the different kinds of music. It was a kind of a small victory when some of the big stores suddenly put out racks of LPs and things under the label World Music.
Oh yes.
You know, which they did because they thought, oh well, maybe this is something that will catch on, you know. And then some record stores maybe would hire somebody to divide it up into countries and things like that. But it was really just a concept developed to try and get the music to the people. It wasn't to say everything that's not American and English is is just, we can all call it world music and it's all the same.
Yeah.
That was not the intention. It was actually to say, hey, there's so much different music out there and you can get it at your local record store. You know, so
I know this. That's
yeah. So it was well meant. It was well meant at the beginning. And of course, everybody now, you know, that's that typical argument, you know, what is world music? But, you know, you have to remember how hard it was to even get these records in the shops.
Yes.
So it's all part of a process that caused, you know, and I mean, that kind of focus and that kind of interest, and the fact that it was more readily available, that, you know, that brought lots of artists on tour. You know, you would get, you know, in the early days, of course, then Youssou N'Dour came over and Salif Keita came over, and they, you know, Salif Keita had this big album, Soro. And, you know, and I remember going to gigs in London at the time, you know, and Youssou N'Dour was packed out, you know, these gigs were really wonderful gigs. And, yeah, so, you know, and that was part of, you know, let's get the music of the world to the people, you know. So get people interested beyond what we call Anglo-American music.
Yeah. That makes all sense. I had I never had the clue of knowing the origin of the term. It's really, everything makes sense now, and now I support the term. I support the label.
I'm glad I've been of help.
I would like to get on with this theme, and I would like to ask about that. When did you start to involve more, fall in love, because it's almost a relation of love, really, with this traditional music from these other countries, with these specific parts, not only in United Kingdom that you were talking about, the Wales area, but in other parts of the world, in South Africa, in Mali, in Zimbabwe, in South Africa. When did you start to fall in love with this traditional music from other countries?
Yeah, I think that it became more concentrated, you know, even back in the old hippie days, you know, you know, all of us self-respecting hippies, we all had a Ravi Shankar album in the pile, you know, and which we put on sort of late at night, and and not quite understand it, but really dig it. And, you know, and in around that time, late 60s, you know, you started to see these musics become more coming out, and as part of the underground kind of thing. But I think for me personally, it was more in the 70s. I was more involved with rock music, and yeah. So, and then in the 80s, when I joined the Three Mustaphas Three, you know, with my colleagues in the Three Mustaphas Three, were all individually very knowledgeable about different kinds of music, and so that's what the band was about. We used to play lots of Greek music, and just because it was just wonderful, just fascinating, you know. And then you go, and it's one thing to listen to something, and then it's another thing to say, let's learn how to play this as best as we can, you know. And so that's what we were doing. And we had different members of the band, one of whom was Kim, who was not only a great accordionist and played Balkan bagpipes, and could speak, you know, traveled in Albania, traveled in what was actually then still Yugoslavia, and would bring back tunes for us to learn. And also she was still is a great salsa piano player. and in demand when salsa people come to the UK and need a piano player. And so and that's just one of the band, and yeah, so everybody had their little speciality, and we pulled all this knowledge and record collections, and started playing songs from around the world. And in order to sort of give it some focus, we had this kind of humorous thing where we masqueraded as a family of musicians from somewhere else. You know, where are you from? Oh, we're from out of town, actually. You know, it's we're from Shekarelli. Where's that? Just over the border, you know. And so I don't think you could do that sort of humor these days. But it was very funny in a very straight sort of way, and people really enjoyed. You know, some of the audience really enjoyed that part of it because it was just funny, and it was. But they were also really great musicians, and you know, we played really well. So we did quite a lot of work over a period of about 5-6 years. We did about 6 tours of the States, went to Japan, toured all around Europe. And in the old communist days, we played in Bulgaria, East Germany, East Berlin. You know, we had to get visas to go over the wall. But
what memories do you have from that period, that invasion from Three Mustaphas Tree in the Iron Curtain days?
Yeah. Well, I think that they didn't know what to make of us at all, you know. But you know, we played at a festival in you know, like the Festival of Youth in Blagoevgrad in the south of Bulgaria, and we were number 17 on the bill or something, after a Bulgarian choir and after some the local music and acrobats and things like that. And there were all these dignitaries, all the communist bosses of the local dignitaries were sitting in special chairs up on a balcony, and we were. And that was just so funny. That was so funny. But the young people there down at the front, they were really digging it. They were laughing, and we went with some of them afterwards to a little bar and had a great time there with some young Bulgarians. Wow. It was really funny. Yeah.
This mood of fun was extended to the records, I think, because one of my favorite world music records from this period, and one of them was from Three Mustaphas Tree, was Soap of the Century. But and what memories do you have from that recording?
That was when, that was towards the end, I think. That was when we were doing a lot of touring, and so we could play anywhere. We could come and play in your front room, or we could play on a big stage. We were very portable. We could either play with acoustic instruments, or walking down the street, or on a stage. And I think that record, it comes across there. The playing is very, very tight. It's great, it's great when you really work as a unit so often that it just becomes like a little machine, that what everybody's going to do next, and so it gives you the chance to do a bit more, and because you can rely on everybody else to. So that I think I remember that, just as being a good time in the band. That was we did the Japanese country and western song on that one. The sober song.
Yeah.
and which we played in Japan, and they were just falling over themselves laughing. It was wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That is
with my Japanese singing. Hey, you know, Mino-san no kobawai kana.
that is quite rare for Japanese people because there sometimes can be very serious. I was hearing a old bootleg by Genesis from 1977. They talking all the songs in the stage, and every time when Phil Collins were into the microphone and to talk, and we're about to talk anything, any word with Japanese people, they applaud everything that you do.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, wow, guys are so serious. They are so immersive on the song. They're really passionate, and
Yeah, well, and very polite. You know, politeness is a
yeah,
real staple of the Japanese social conduct. You know, so yeah, I mean that's it. They listen, and
they
but
listen.
so if when we go to Japan with Camel, you know, they will listen. They would definitely listen. And usually it's a seated audience. But funnily enough, when we went with the Mustaphas, it was in a clubs, and there was standing audience, and it was, I don't know, it was quite a young audience, and they were actually, you know, like a London,
Yeah,
you know, a rock club audience.
yes.
So you never know.
You
There's
never know
no,
what
you
you could expect from
you
them.
can't say it's a stereotype. Perhaps it's when they get in a concert hall, they sort of suddenly start behaving themselves. I don't know.
Yeah. Now we're gonna get in the part of the interview where we're talking about your journey, your 45 spanning journey with Camel. But I would like to ask at first, I didn't know this until very recently. You used to play with Steve Hillage, but you
Yeah.
never got to studio with him during Al Green era. Was there a reason for that when you
Oh yeah.
entered to the band, to his band?
Well, I'll tell you the story as far as I see it. Basically, I was playing in a band in London and around the UK and Europe, a band called Clancy, which was part of the kind of the London pub rock scene. And and we made a couple of albums for Warner Brothers, and so people knew of us. And that band split up, and that coincided with the fact that Steve had been in the States recording the L album with Todd Rundgren producing. And so, and it was a kind of a surprise hit. Virgin put it out. He was on Virgin Records, and it sort of suddenly was in the British album charts. And so they wanted to get a band together quick. And Steve's manager knew that the Clancy had just broken up, and he'd seen us and everything. So he just rang me up and said, "Hey, Steve's looking for a bass player. You know, go along to his place in Kensington. You know, and take your bass with you. You know." So I just went there, and Steve was there, and he made me a cup of tea, and we sat down and we just jammed for about an hour, and sort of going through different timings and stuff like that, and just jamming really. So he said, "Yeah, okay, no, good, yeah." So we'll start rehearsing next week. You know, Clive Bunker's the drummer. And I thought, wow, fantastic. You know, I loved the early Jethro Tull stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was it. I got the job, you know, because they needed to find somebody quick. But, you know, I was astute enough to make sure I was playing, following him. And so, you know, I just got the job. And then that was a kind of I don't know, it was a 6-month period where we were touring in Europe, and then we did this big, you know, coast to coast American tour supporting the Electric Light Orchestra.
Wow.
You know, So I think we were playing. So we were playing. We were the support act, and we were playing. Madison Square Gardens and the Los Angeles Forum and these big arenas. And we'd have 45 minutes, and yeah, and it was great because Steve was really, but this was at the same time as punk was coming out, and so, and there we were all with our long hippie hair and everything. But when you listen back, when you look back at that, that was all pretty. That was pretty punky too. Because we only had 45 minutes every night. And we rattled through that stuff at quite high tempo, and it was a very tight band. It was wonderful. And Steve and Miquette are just so nice, to work for. Steve, he looked like some sort of cosmic pixie hippie, but very focused guy. He's very focused and knows what he wants.
And he managed...
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and then there's a couple of CDs come out recently. There's one of the Madison Square Garden concert, and yeah.
And you were talking about his focused approach on music, and I was hearing an interview by the guys from Simple Minds who used to have him producing one of the earliest post-punk experimental albums.
That's right, yeah.
And he said that he was a guy who teach many things to musicians. He's a very cultural guy who knows about everything. I would love to interview him someday, but
yeah,
I hope I got it. But
try.
Anyway, I would like to ask now, how did you get into Camel exactly?
Yeah, well, then that in a similar way, because with after the Steve Hillage thing finished, it wasn't straight away, but I think it was in 1979 that Camel were looking for a bass player because Richard Sinclair left, and their tour manager was a guy called Laurie Small, who had also done the European tour managing with Steve. So I'd already met Laurie, and so Laurie recommended me, and I went up. I think they auditioned quite a few people. But and I went up to where they were rehearsing in the countryside in Norfolk, and that was Jan Shellhouse, Kit Watkins, Andy Ward, and Andy, and they were just going through a song, and which was Hymn to Her, actually.
Oh,
and
my God.
They said, okay, look, just see if you can come, get into this, play along with this, and have a listen. They played it for me, and then and I was just working out the root notes and stuff. And I just sort of played along, and they liked it, and said, yeah, okay, well, we'll let you know. And I went home, and then pretty soon after that, they let me know. And so I had the job, and that was it. I had to go back to that place and start rehearsing. And that was the rehearsals for the I Can See Your House from Here album. And as soon as we'd done that, as soon as that was finished, we started rehearsing for the tour of the album. And then there was from that, it was pretty much 2.5 years of one thing after another, like I Can See Your House from Here tour, and then rehearsals, nude, recording, nude, and then the nude tour, and hey,
And I would like to ask, exactly, you were talking about I Can See Your House from Here, And what were your first impressions of the band when you joined it? The
No, you
first
know,
impression-
I hadn't listened to a lot of Camel before.
Oh,
Um,
really?
no, you know, I was aware of it, but I hadn't really listened to it. And although Clancy, the band I was in, we did support the Camel at the
Yeah.
Roundhouse in London, but I didn't really stay around to listen to. I think we had to go somewhere else. But so when I was asked when Laurie said, you want to go up and audition for Camel, I suddenly got a couple of albums and started listening. And the first one I listened to was Breathless,
Oh,
and I loved that. I love that record. You know,
yeah.
I thought, hey, this is beautiful. This is like, it's English. It's highly melodic, beautiful harmonies, lots of, you know, nice playing on it, and that, you know, love that. I've been trying to, ever since I've been trying to get Andy to put, you know, the first track. What is it? You know, Breathless, the track Breath. She takes my breath
Yeah.
away. You know, I've been trying to get him to do it
Echo.
live. He never wants to do it. You know, yeah, but it's a 12 string, and it's like, you know, yeah, well, you know, we can rearrange it, but it's like, and it's no, I don't know why, but yeah, but I love that record. So I went up there thinking, with an idea of that sort of English melodic content, that, you know, that was obviously what I should be looking at, you know, trying to provide that, the bass end to that. And so I was right. I got the job, and you know, and we've had lots of ups and downs since then, and Andy's had very many ups and downs, business wise and health wise, but you know, hey, he's still my brother.
It's been hell of a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were talking about melodic approach of the band, and I love Breathless record. I love all other tracks from that record. Echoes, which was a concert staple.
Oh
The
yes, yes.
Breathless. I love this record. I love all Camel's records, even Single Factor.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I heard some really harsh reviews, but man, that album
Yeah,
has Sasquatch, has Selva, which is amazing, and other tunes. I like it too. I
yeah,
like You Are the One. It's pop.
yeah.
It's a great pop tune.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think Andy was trying to get back up, you know, because he was after the nude tour. I think he got very depressed because, you know, because of Andy Ward's illness, and I think he became a bit despondent about that.
It was
Well, we
really
all did.
difficult. It was really difficult time
Very
because
difficult
Andy
time.
was having those signals of health problems, mental health problems during the period. Not the nude period was really more
Yeah.
huge on that, but before on I Can See Your House From Here, he was starting to have these problems or
I don't
fatigue.
know. I don't know. I was the last to notice because I was his friend, you know. I don't know how that doesn't make sense really, but yeah, you know, we shared a flat together in London, and it was sort of, I don't know. I was too busy having a good time. I didn't realize, you know, I was very, you know, sometimes you know, life is, you can do really stupid things, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And you were talking about one of the most remarkable tracks from this period, this first period stint of you in the band was Ice, which was a
Yeah, well, that's
really
one of the,
majestic track. And do
yeah,
you
that's,
remember the recording of the track
oh, I
before?
remember that very well. I remember that very well. Yeah,
How was that? Because
It
I
was
could
beautiful.
imagine the atmosphere in the studio.
Yeah, yeah,
Being,
yeah. It was beautiful because that was how we were. It somehow it just came about, and I thought, you know, I just had to. I don't know. I was used to explain it to Andy that, you know, to me that thing is sort of like, this is like big blocks. Maybe it's like an iceberg, you know, that is just, and it's the space, you know. So there's the tempo and the single notes, and I was playing long bass notes and slides and, you know, and a little just marking certain little rhythmic bits. And Andy Ward and I used to work really well together, I think, in that. You know, we used to work out little. He used to do that a lot with Doug Ferguson too in the old days. I came to learn as I listened to the old stuff. But yeah, so in other words, there's sort of like orchestrated bits, and I like that sense of dynamic. You know, the dynamics of orchestrated music. Yeah, so that was no, but I remember that very well.
and that song was really a label for me that has a landmark on Camel's music, which was emotional music.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
it wasn't a traditional rock, or it has a lot of depth, a lot of emotion,
yeah.
especially from the 90s onward, because which was my favorite period from the band. And I would like to ask
Excellent.
you, talking about Nude record, and that was the first conceptual one with you. And Susan Hoover started to help Andy with the lyrics, with the concept. And
Yeah.
did you know that if was she who came up with the idea first, or Andy who asked it for her participation as a
No
lyric?
idea. I mean, I think I don't know who did what, you know, but I know that they worked on this together, and I think that you know, so they must have come up with this together. But I don't really know. I can't really answer that. I just
Okay.
know that, you know, that the lyrics, there's some not very good lyrics on I Can See Your House From Here, because, you know, there was some outside people were brought in, and it's, yeah, it was okay. It was just like but that's why the instrumental is much better. But you know, then the new concept, and then when Susan sort of came out with all these great lyrics, you know, and then from then on, you know, like the Stationary Traveller, and then the other concept albums, Dust and Dreams, The Harbour of Tears. I think that, you know, she did a great job on that. They're real stories, you know. There's some storytelling going on there. And so she would be the one, I think, who really did all the, like the Dust and Dreams thing, and certainly on Harbour of Tears, I think she was the one who was doing the researching about the Irish emigrants to America, and the different words that came up in the songs. Like Slates is a really great song, you know, lyrically. Yeah, so that was there you go. That's another phase of the band, another blossoming of the creative talent from within, you know, that I like. I like that period too. I like Dust and Dreams and Harbour of Tears are really two of my favorite albums.
And yes, they are my favorite ones too. And it has a lot of. I feel that the 90s of Camel career are quite underrated by the general progger audience. And do you agree with that?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
I think it's very, very underrated. I think it's these records are on par with Moo Madness, for example, for me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And they're in fact they're much more intricate pieces of work. You know, they're much
Yeah,
denser. It's got much more depth, really, I think.
yeah. You guys had a hiatus from recording from 1985 to 1991 when you returned with Dust and Dreams record. I heard, and you can confirm it or correct me if I'm wrong, that the Camel went on hiatus during this period due to problems with the management and
Yeah,
record company. But
yeah.
I said that in this meantime, he was developing Dust and Dreams before you guys eventually recorded it in
Oh
1991.
yeah, yeah. Of
Is
course.
that true?
Yeah. I mean, I think Andy was was always developing new ideas, and some of the original demos that he sent me in that time, some of those themes, you would hear things in certain demos. He's it's an unfinished song that he would send to me. You could hear then some of those themes would reappear in Dust and Dreams, for example. I think that's kind of normal. That's how a lot of artists work. Is that you've got recurring ideas that come up, and then they're on ice for a bit, and then you bring them back, and they develop into something else. Like I said at the beginning of the interview,
Ah,
things develop. You have to go there first, and then you can get there.
yeah. And I feel the production of this period is quite more linear. Uh, there was a great harmony between you and the tone Sherpenzel. You started playing with him with Stationary Traveler too. And
Yeah.
by the way, I'm escaping from my original question, but I need to ask you that how was the mood of that original 1984 tour? Because you didn't play it on the record. Stationary Traveler was
Yeah.
David Payton, another great bass player who used to play the bass lines. And but I have to admit, but I prefer your adapted lines from those
The
songs
tour,
from the
the Pressure
the
Points tour.
album.
Yeah.
And
Thank
how
you. Well,
was
that's
the mood
nice. I mean, people have
line?
different styles. Yeah, people have different styles. David's a great bass player. So yeah. I mean, I was, I was at that time. I was doing other things as well, busy with other things, and then Andy. I don't know, Andy. I hadn't spoken to Andy for a couple of years. And then he just rang me up and said, are you interested in doing the tour? Perhaps David didn't want to do it or couldn't do it, I don't know. But anyway, he rang me up and he came round to my place, and we saw each other again since, yeah, hadn't been a couple of years. So yeah, and then so I did that tour, and that was good. It's a really nice tour, and I think it sounded really good, but there were like too many people on the stage. There were 6 people on the stage or more. I can't remember now,
Yeah.
because Andy was sort of at a bit of a point where he was sort of thinking, I really have to have everything that's on the record on the stage, and it has to sound like the record. And so we had too many keyboard players, basically. And to me, when you start doing that, you're losing the essence of the band, because then, well, what can go wrong, unless you make a mistake, whereas, I like a sense of danger in music, really. You've got to, because, you've got to have a sense of danger in order to get a little bit higher, and rather than the aim being to make sure that it's always of a certain standard. Yeah, so but all the lineups that we've been through since then, but really the best lineup for me is the last one. And if we can get out and play again, I'll be very happy. And we'd all be very happy, because it's like with Denny Clement drums and Pete Jones, genius on keyboards and sax,
Extraordinary.
and what a great voice too. And yeah, he's so talented, such a talented guy. And yeah, and also that was just all of a sudden it was a 4-piece again, you know, for the first time since the 70s, you know, since before my time actually. And there's something about that. There's something about a 4-piece.
Yeah.
You know, you've got space in between. You're not filling every gap. It's and sometimes, as the old saying goes, less is more. You know, when you pull some things out of the picture suddenly gets bigger. Yeah. So
a raw feeling of the music because it has emotion, it has depth,
Yeah.
but it's at the same time you have a raw feeling playing with 4 people because there's one instrumentalist playing one instrument. You don't need to have 2 guitar players. When you had Andy Latimer, you don't have to need 2 keyboard players when you had Pete Jones or Guy Fused players.
Yeah. So and we all agree. And the last few tours since Andy came back out after his illness in the noughties, 2013 we did gradually much better tours all the time. Yeah, and that was the 2018 tour was just wonderful. You know, it was really a wonderful. Except poor Andy was suffering from various health issues, but you know, you wouldn't know it to see him on the stage. You know, he's what we used to call in the theatre trade a trooper. Is that, you know, the show must go on. You know. So,
yeah. Yes, and one of the things that I most like it is I was saying that in the first part of the interview that Andy guitar and Andy melodic approach of writing, of creating guitar tracks is so seems effortlessly. But and I would like to ask about the construction process of these records that you were talking about, which was Harbor of Tears and especially Distant Dreams, but more Harbor of Tears because that was my favorite one, #1 album, my Billboard charts of my heart. And how was the construction process in the studio? It was more based on jamming, as would I say, ideas coming and flowing.
Yeah, those things were done on 2-inch tape, 24-track machines.
Oh, really?
And so therefore, it was really old school. And Andy's studio, he had a Soundcraft desk, not automated. So when we were mixing Harbor of Tears, there were like the 2 of us sort of there pushing faders and, you know, I made a mistake, go back, start again, do the whole thing again. It was like a athletics course, you know. And also because you've got, once you started overdubbing and putting things on top, there were sometimes different instruments on the same track but coming at different parts of the song, so you had to write out big maps of where these events are happening so that you could then turn it down for when that bit comes in, and then then there's this a bit later on that track there's a bit we got to turn it up and adjust the top, and you know, so it was quite exciting to do that. But you know, basically, it all comes from Andy working on his own and building up the tracks, and then getting the musicians in to replace what he does, and or getting a drummer in to replace the drum machine, or whatever it was that happened in those days. So the process, I mean, it always comes from Andy. He's the guy in control. The only time that, you know, that it's like, I don't know if you're familiar with my Outcasts of the Islands album, which I recorded in Poland with some great musicians there, including Maciek Mela who's now with Riverside. is a very good friend, and that was done on 2-inch tape, and I took those two 2-inch tapes from Poland over to Andy in California, and he played the guitars on that for the Outcast Islands album, and this is people still love it. I've just been on tour, just done 4 gigs in Europe, and people are coming up, with that album, asking me to sign it and saying how much they love it. It's the missing Camel album, because Andy plays some great stuff on it. It's just that the songs are mine. So hey, check that out. Check out Outcasts of the Islands. You can go to my Bandcamp, colinbass.bandcamp.com, and you can hear everything there for free. And buy it if you want.
I didn't know that record, and I was happy. I was fortunate to talk about this one, because it has a great storytelling about you talking about that, and it has a great. Do you know when you have a great album, when you had a great storytelling about it?
Yeah.
those records, and you were talking about how much you have to learn about the earlier records from Camel to reproduce the tracks live. And some fans consider these records, Distant Dreams and Harbor of Tears, quite different, quite more melodic, comparing to the first albums. Do you agree with that? I always consider that Rajas, which was the album that follow up Harbor of Tears, it has a more direction to the earliest ones.
Yes, because it's more. I would agree, because it's more guitar, keys, drums, bass, rather than an orchestral approach, which is like Dust and Dreams and Harbor of Tears. It's an orchestral approach, so. So Rajas is more like down to a more a band kind of feel.
It was deliberate.
What? Sorry.
It was deliberate decision, or it was something that happened to occur in the.
I guess it was deliberate. I don't know. You'd have to ask Andy. It's. I think I definitely think that Andy wanted to be able to. Well, I know that Andy wanted to be able to have some new material that was easier to perform, and that sounded, as you say, more like the band of the old days, only better, hopefully. Because Andy just wants to play his guitar.
It was during the tour for that album that you came to Brazil in 2001. Do you remember something from that period?
Oh, yeah. I remember playing in Brazil very well. They were great gigs. All the gigs down south there, they were all wonderful. And of course, there's such enthusiastic audiences. It's just it's wonderful.
I would love to experience it, but I was merely newborn back then. I was 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
Old,
okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't got to that chance. But Another Week was the last album. And do you believe that at time Andy really planned it as a farewell record for the band?
No, I don't think that anybody would be planning something like that. I just think that, that was when his illness was becoming a little more pronounced. And so therefore there's a sort of, there's a kind of intimations of mortality. It's him looking back at his life, you know, but it's a lot of different things, actually. It's there's some interesting overlooked tracks on that one. It's good, and Guy Leblanc's contribution is good on that one. The late Guy, so our dear departed friend. But yeah, but no, that was it. But we, you know, you never know what's going to happen next. I can't speak for Andy what he might have been planning deliberately or not. You know, I don't think so. I think he's just, and you know, as an artist, I think you just want to carry on and you just make your work according to the moods that come to you. And you know, you can't always explain what those moods are, can you? You know, it's about feeling. It's about, we don't always know what we're feeling about stuff, but we know that we feel things, you know. So what we feel is another question.
We were talking now about concerts, and you were talking about atmosphere in a live setting. And which ones do you consider the most remarkable for the band's career? And concerts in terms of important shows for you, shows that touch you deeply, playing within the band. Do you have?
Yeah, I mean, lots of them, really. There's so many. There's so many. It's very hard to pinpoint anything, because each one is an event in itself, you know. And we've been through so much, you know. I remember, you know, I've been on a stage with Andy when we were both so ill with some sort of stomach bug that we could barely stand up, but we still did the gig and got through it. That was in Spain. When one by one everybody in the band got really ill, and me and Andy were the last, and but we still carried on. We had to, the show had to go on, you know. And things like that I remember, is sort of being hardly able to stand, but somehow the audience is there, somehow the music has a healing force of its own. And the music sort of carries you through in some magical way. And even though you may not be at your best performance, you manage to get through it. And then afterwards, we just collapsed. We couldn't do another encore. You know, it was like, but also, you know, just being really surprised sometimes. You know, like the last Albert Hall gig was great. I love that. And when we played in Turkey for the first time on that tour in 2018. And that was like in this huge theater, 2 nights sold out. And they were going crazy. And as it turns out, like half the audience were from Iran, because Iranians can travel to Turkey. So all of a sudden, half the venue there was Iranian fans, and they were coming backstage to meet us and bringing their flags, and you know, we were signing, and they were coming in, people in tears to come and meet us, you know. And you're just saying, yeah, it's okay.
It has no price.
no price. And just because of what the music meant to them, you know. And there were some young people coming in, Iranians, and they were saying, you know, I grew up with your music. My father, you know, had your records, and so it was a huge emotional thing for them. You know, it meant something to them, for their families, for their childhood memories, and it's quite extraordinary, you know. So those are the things that I remember, because I think that's when you know that the music is bigger than you, you know, whatever your intention was when you made the music, it takes on another form. It takes on its own thing. When it goes out into the world, you know, it becomes something else because other people see different things in it. But what they see in it is personal, is their personal interpretation. And for them, that's real. So it's, in the end, it doesn't really matter, you know, what the artist intended. What really matters is the effect upon people, and you know, and they might not be sort of getting the same message that you originally thought that you had when you made the record, but it doesn't matter. They've interpreted it and they've incorporated it into their life in such a way that music reminds them of something that means a lot to them. So that's it. That's when the music itself, that's when the art itself crosses over into people's lives, into their consciousness, and that you don't have any control about that, you know.
And one thing that I most liked on that 2008 tour, that was quite you were playing Moon Madness entire album in the first half of the show, and the second set were composed by really obscure tunes, which I love all of them. Hopeless Anger, Long Goodbyes, and man, and that was
a different choice.
Hit show.
Yeah, a
choice. Really hardcore fan.
Yeah. That was good. I mean, you know, because we have to keep it interesting for ourselves too. You know, it's and you know, it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. There's a lot to choose from.
It would be really comfortable for Andy and for all of you. Get out and play Lady Fantasy or the whole Snow Girls every night, but no. You play all the tracks from all those records, and
well, you know, but
I love.
Yeah, but those tours were a compromise of that sort of thing, because you know, the agents and are all saying, you know, hey, I've got to sell this concert. You know, you've got to be promising people that you're going to play what they want to hear. So okay, we'll play Moon Madness. We'll play Moon Madness, the whole thing from start to finish. Yeah, we can do that. And don't forget, it was an LP, so it was only 40 minutes long. So that's great. I mean, we're used to playing 2.5 hours. So it's like, okay, we'll do 40 minutes, take a break, come back on and play what we want to play. So so hopefully everybody's happy. And anyway, Moon Madness was a good record. I mean, I always enjoy playing Lunar Sea and all those things. They're such fun numbers to play. Yeah. Very
Do you
good.
have you were talking about now about your huge fondness of those memories from those periods playing live, and I would like to ask for you, there's any chance of Camel returning for you playing shows in the near future? Do you?
Yeah, well, that's what many people were asking me when I was in Europe over the weekend, you know. And I say, well, we have to wait and see. You know, Andy is recovering, and we can only hope that, you know, he's going to be well enough to do a tour, because operations on your spine is no small thing. But you know, he's up, he's walking. It's not like he can't move. No, he's okay. But you know, to be on tour, you need a certain amount of fitness. Because stamina is a good word. Yeah. Because you know, you have to. It's the traveling. It's the hanging around. It's the having to sit for long periods of time.
Touring is very hard.
Yeah.
Touring is very hard. Different hotels, different foods, different
absolutely.
altitudes. Yeah. It could be a hell for many musicians.
Yeah.
You have to be very trooper, and Andy is a very trooper for.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
You were talking about songs specifically. What are your favorite songs from Camel that you most like it and you most like to play?
I don't know. Can't answer that. I don't really know.
Really?
Yeah. Because there's a lot of them, and I like them. And I like them all for different reasons. It can be that some of them are like really interesting to play from a bass player's perspective. Things on Harbour of Tears, coming of age, all those things. I really like playing those parts, and I like the sound that the whole band makes when we're doing that. It's like an orchestra, and I like it when I get the chance to sing, and I manage to do it well, and yeah, so different reasons. There's a lot of different kinds of material, and there's nothing that I really don't like. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good point. I could imagine the face you playing a song that you hated.
Oh, no,
play this shit.
No, that's silly. That would be a silly thing to do.
Fortunately, you don't have this problem.
Yeah,
fortunately, you don't have this problem. I could imagine the scene. Oh, I have to play this.
No. Anyway, if I really felt like that, we would have a talk about it, and we probably wouldn't do it. So because there would be a reason why I hated playing it, because I don't think because I wouldn't have thought that we really need to play it. Or it's not good enough, or because. Yeah, so, but I don't know. That's a hypothetical argument, because hey, I like it, and if Andy wants to play something, let's make it sound great. So why not?
This whole interview was about your work as an artist, and as a music listener, what you most like to listen to actually now in your life?
Good question. Well, lots of things. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of music here, and I've got loads of music in the studio. There's stuff in cupboards, and what I most like to listen to is usually the thing that I'm working on. That's because that's the thing that I'm fascinated by. But I would listen to lots of things in the evening. While we're cooking a meal, we'll put on something that not too demanding. With just to we have different things. I have a collection of music here. This is like the kitchen playlist. And I still have CDs and stuff that I go, I'll put that CD in. And and that could be anything. We play a lot of Greek music here, especially while we're cooking, because my wife is Greek, so she's enlightened me as to lots of really great Greek music, in contemporary Greek music too. Some great Greek singer-songwriters, and really interesting stuff. And I don't know. I like anything. It might be the Ry Cooder, might be Nick Cave, or might be Bob Dylan, or it might be I don't know.
Do you know any Brazilian music?
Yeah, it might be Gilberto Gil, it might be Caetano Veloso. Caetano Veloso. What's his name?
Caetano.
And I recently had to do a little write-up about Hermeto Pascoal. because I work for a world music trade fair called Womex that happens every year, and this year at their awards ceremony, he was honoured as for his lifetime achievement, and he was going to appear, but his doctor advised him against travelling at the last minute, and so he sent a video, but his band was there with his son, and his band, who is the Mothership, who with whom he's played for a long time. The bass player has been, and the drummer have been with him for years and years, and they put on a performance. They took the award for him, and they put on a performance. It was wonderful. They were fantastic. They were really great.
Yeah.
So I listen to a lot of the Brazilian music, actually. Yeah.
Final question.
Yeah.
If you could define your playing style in one word or phrase, not playing style, but your production, your work style in one word or phrase, what would it be?
Learning.
What?
Learning.
Great word. And it was immense learning talking with you. Thanks so much for the interview. I will not take your time anymore.
Slowly.
And please come back to our channel as soon as you get new stuff released. You're absolutely invited to do another interview, and we're talking about anything that you wanted, anything about the new records and more of your solo records. I will listen the album that you recommended. I save it here on my phone.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Colin.
Enjoy. Yeah, thank you very much. Lovely to meet you, and all the best with the website or the whatever it is that you're putting together here. And let me know. Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you for asking. Bye bye. Bye bye.